Shabbat Shalom, my friends. Well, this is a moment of new beginnings. No, it's not Rosh Hashanah, not yet. But on January 20th, the zodiac sign of Aquarius becomes dominant. January 20th. So as we speak, this is the dawn of the dominance of Aquarius. And no, I will not sing. I will leave that to you. The world will be a better place. Another calendar note, we are now in the Hebrew month of Shvat, and on January 25th, we will celebrate Tu B'Shvat, the 15th day of the month of Shvat, the New Year of Trees. I try not to tell people what to do. That's not my style. But the next joyous occasion on our calendar won't be until Purim, which falls on March 24th. So from January 25th to March 24th, we have no major celebrations. So take advantage of Tu B'Shvat. Have a picnic, plant trees, protect nature, and start planning your costumes for Purim. Our Sedra is bow, Exodus 10:1 to 13:16. The setting is the final three plagues, locusts, a terrible darkness, and then the slaying of the firstborn of Egypt. 430 years of Jacob's family living in Egypt. 430 years during which the limited freedom of the Israelites morphed into slavery. 430 years that prepared the Jewish people to treasure freedom as one of the peak values of Jewish life. The Israelites would leave Egypt led by 600,000 fighting men, perhaps 3 million all told. Now, the accuracy of all of these numbers is of little concern. The exodus from Egypt would be baked into the DNA of our people forever. So many questions are thrust before us. First of all, why was the enslavement of the Jewish people a core aspect of whatever plan God had in mind for us? Why were we thrust into the flames of suffering before we could make the journey to Mount Sinai and from there to the Promised Land? Do enlightenment and heightened awareness only come about through the instrumentality of pain? Secondly, God toyed with Pharaoh, knowing from the beginning that Pharaoh would refuse to allow the Israelites to leave. The text makes crystal clear that God was personally responsible for hardening Pharaoh's heart, for making Pharaoh far too stubborn to yield to what was happening before his eyes. Pharaoh's fate was predestined because the Exodus was predestined. Thirdly, why were the Israelites so reluctant to grab hold of the opportunity for freedom? When Moses first spoke to his people, they turned their backs on him with scorn. "Leave us alone, Moses. You'll only make things worse." Even if there had been 600,000 men ready to fight, don't for a moment believe that the people were cheering them on, waving flags, holding up babies so that they would forever remember the triumphant forces of God's army. Far from it. The people were weak, they whined, and they wavered. They regretted their freedom and the burdens that freedom carried. They yearned for their distorted memories of whatever it was that slavery was all about. Slaves were always fed, though not the kind of meals that they might have preferred. Slaves always had a roof over their heads, even though their meager shacks had little, if any, hints of comfort and security. And this was the world to which time and again the Israelites would have chosen to return. One last question. Why was the journey to freedom marked by so much dissension? Reading the text, we can get the impression that the people were responsible for Moses being hit with a vast array of anxiety attacks, which led him to what in a sports setting would be called unforced errors. A golden calf, mumblings and murmurings of revolt, dark clouds of jealousy within the family, a refusal to abide by the demands that God was making of them, a quick abandonment of hope whenever the situation during the Exodus would become unexpectedly difficult. Why did the editors of the Torah fail to remove all of those blemishes? Couldn't we have been portrayed as a bit more heroic? Couldn't God have been portrayed as a bit less demanding and unforgiving? Why did those editors of the text display before us problems that surely were not designed to make us hold our ancestors and the Exodus experience in high esteem? Aviva Zornberg contemplates such questions in her commentary on the book of Exodus. The narrative that we have about the Exodus experience has become the dominant narrative surrounding the birth of the Jewish people. The narrative about the Exodus experience, the dominant narrative surrounding the birth of the Jewish people. It's what the Haggadah sets before us. That narrative, that's what we teach our children. That narrative shapes our annual Seder. That narrative is the common possession of most Jews, people who live on the surface of life's experiences. Oh, Pharaoh's heart was hardened? Okay. The people weren't enthusiastic about freedom? Okay. There was little glorious about the behavior of our people during the wilderness wandering? Okay, come on, let's eat. Zornberg proposes that the counter-narrative, that which I have been calling the questions that a serious consideration of the Exodus puts before us, that counter-narrative is really the lifeblood of an evolving people and evolving Judaism. When we are forced to drill down, to understand the morality and purposes regarding God's treatment of Pharaoh, we open the door to a vast body of theological and ethical literature. When we debate about the threats of freedom and the allure of slavery, we open another door to a vast body of psychological, sociological literature. When we try to figure out how communities are formed, how leaders emerge, how values are transmitted, we enter another room dedicated to understanding what settings are most favorable to human growth, education, and development. For Zornberg, the counter-narrative, those questions we were asking, isn't a mere annoyance or a distraction. It is the heart of the matter. We are forced to question. We are forced to abandon facile answers and ephemeral responses. We are forced to sharpen our focus on what exactly is being told to us about the Exodus and how what we learn from the Exodus can enrich and strengthen our lives. The Torah wants us to question. The Torah wants us to challenge. And if those questions and those challenges open the possibility that some of our people will reject the Torah altogether, that is an acceptable risk. Where heretical questions are to be found, there will truth be found as well. Don't push aside your questions, the counter-narrative. As you study Torah, hold those questions up and let them lead us to ever-deepening understandings. Shabbat Shalom. See you next week. Oh, enjoy Aquarius.